So yeah, that infographic step.
coLAB is a European teaching initiative that aims to challenge some of the preconceptions around refugees by inviting them into the classroom to share their expertise and experience with university students. It's been delivered in France, Belgium, Italy and the UK.
Why don't they just use someone like you and show celebrities working?
The project's aiming to break down some of the integration barriers that the refugees tutors are experiencing when they're trying to re-establish their professional careers.
It's quite difficult because, arriving somewhere you don't know, and, everything is very fast-paced here, and it's not like you have the right connection. And how do people view, refugees as well? Because usually when you're a refugee, they think that you come in without having any background, and having, this language barrier as well was quite difficult.
In the beginning, let's say, I applied for a job, related to my background, like as a communication information officer, media person. But to be honest, it wasn't easy. And I received a lot of rejection, which is, it's not easy to receive rejection every day.
When I first arrived here, I've had lots of different jobs. I worked as a cleaner, I worked in a cafe, I've done lots of different jobs. And I was happy really doing them because at least this is a job I can do, I can depend on myself. However, my aim was always to go back to my profession, to teaching.
Is it necessary for us to see this photo?
I got in and I started talking to them and started seeing what's missing from their understanding. So what I have in mind, what is missing in my mind from the refugee conversation is a bit different from what they have in mind from what's missing. So it's great to bridge that gap.
The session was organized around a number of topics, which were mainly compassion fatigue and distance suffering. He was so approachable that allows us to see this kind of figure of the refugee in a completely different light. He was very clear to say that he was first a journalist and then a refugee, a person who happens to be a refugee, not somebody who is defined by this label.
9 years, day in, day out, people get killed.
Really interesting to kind of have that bridge built because, quite naturally, being from a Western society, being in a Western university, we only really have knowledge of kind of like, distant countries such as Syria through the media more often than not, unless you actually kind of go about it and look at it for yourself.
There's only so much you can learn from obviously reading about an event or watching footage of an event, but to hear testimony of someone that experienced that conflict and obviously his experiences of his refugee journey. For me, it was a lot more hard-hitting than the footage and reading about some of the events leading up to the Syrian conflict.
The more students are exposed to these sorts of voices, the more they will make sure that what they produce when they move into industry is inclusive, embracing other cultures, bringing different looks and feels in, to bringing change, bringing new creativity.
Going through, the asylum process and being refugee, being stigmatized as someone who has to do, the lowest job, that was really quite depressing. So being part of, this project make me feel like, be confident again. It's like gaining back my confidence and knowing what I can do and also what I can't do. I was very happy to be part of it. I just feel part of the community right now, and right now I just feel welcomed.
It's important to have someone who's gone through those experiences to learn firsthand, and it just enriches everybody. It's about telling stories from different perspectives, not always the same story from one dominant perspective. So it's important to have a diversity of voices, especially here at LCC. considering it's such an international environment.
Even just a few students come away from that class wanting to get involved in future projects or humanitarian projects or anything like that. I think that's of huge value, and ultimately that's partly what these sort of things are all about, spreading a message and making sure that the right people know about it and everyone's on board in making the world a better place, really.
I think integration is starting by knowledge, and being part of that program, it's given me a lot of knowledge in terms of education and in terms of interacting with different audiences. As I said, it's all helping me to see myself more belong to the country and belong to the issues of the country, and being even kind of advocate for some issues of the country. And I think coLAB, by providing us that platform, it's giving us the confidence, the appreciation that we miss all the time, and the ability to think differently. So I will say, go ahead coLAB, continue if you can.
I'm frustrated that someone like that could get thousands.